Hello. Hi guys, we're back. Okay, back to the Bay Miwok. So yesterday, after we did lesson 1, hopefully you took a second and colored in your picture. Here's what mine looks like. It's okay, of course, if yours looks a little bit different than mine. I colored it yellow. I labeled where the different tribelets lived. And then, of course, here's our Volvan, which are the ones that were on our side of Mount Diablo. Okay? All right, so today what we're going to do is we're going to read lesson 2. I'm going to go through lesson 2 and then show you what the activity is for today. So here it is, lesson 2, villages. All right, so let's learn about how the Miwok lived in their villages. This one is a little bit less reading than yesterday, or maybe it's a little bit less. Here we go. Bay Miwok villages were small, consisting of 70 to 200 natives. When they say natives, they're talking about people, okay? So their villages were small with 70 to 200 natives. If you don't have a highlighter, just using a pencil and underlining some of these important details is helpful. The villages were built next to streams and creeks. Why would they be built next to water? Oh, keep reading. Streams and creeks of the Mount Diablo foothills so that fresh water was nearby. Okay, again, it's all about natural resources. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this next to streams and creeks of the Mount Diablo foothills so that fresh water was nearby. Okay, this reminds me of just our local area. If you think about by the library, there's a creek there, right? By the elementary school, that's the same creek, okay? But that creek can also kind of forks and goes a different direction too. At the library is kind of actually where the fork is, and it goes in different directions. But that creek kind of runs down from Mount Diablo, and that is a good water source. Some tribelets lived there permanently, and some set up temporary villages on Mount Diablo only during the harvest season. We'll actually learn why that is later on when we're reading. Houses in a village were placed in groups around a large open space. This open space was used for tribal ceremonies and gatherings, kind of like a plaza or like a town center. You can even think of it like the Grove in downtown Clayton, okay? And then the houses were around it. So I'm going to write that. I'm going to put around a large open space. The Bay Miwok lived in round, dome-shaped structures called tule houses. Remember, again, we've talked about the tule already before. Round, dome-shaped tule houses. These houses were built from the natural materials of the land, tules and willow branches. They ranged in size from 6 to 20 feet wide. Okay, 6 feet is probably a term you hear a lot right now with coronavirus, that you should keep people 6 feet apart. So that's like taller than me. If I were to lay down on the ground, that would be 6 feet. So 20 feet is going to be a bit wider than that, okay? Because of their size, an entire family of several generations lived in one house. So when they say several generations, that means mom, dad, or whatever the parents are, the children, and the grandparents. That's what several generations means, okay? The chief of the village always had the largest house. Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me that the chief has the biggest house in town. Home building started with digging a round, shallow hole. The frame of the house was built by sticking long willow branches in the ground around the edge of the hole, leaning towards the center. Walls were formed by weaving vines and twigs through the willow branches. The willow frame was covered with tule bundles, leaving a small hole at the top to let out smoke. We had talked about a couple of these features when we were learning about the other just California Native Americans. We talked a little bit about how the frame was built, and if you recall, we even watched a video about building a tule house. So the way that they're going to do it is, after they dig their hole, they're going to put in the what did they say? The willow branches first are going to go into the ground, but they're going to go into the ground kind of on an inward angle, okay? Then they're going to do the weaving, okay? And then they're going to put bundles up, bundles of the tule branches, okay? In the winter, mud was plastered on the outside to make it warmer and more waterproof. The doorway opening was low and faced away from the usual direction of the wind. Good plan. Do you really want the wind blowing stuff into your house? Probably not, okay? In this paragraph, some things that I want to do, I kind of just want to really focus on that it was the willow branches and the tule bundles The small hole at the top let out the smoke. And I also like this detail here about using mud. And why was the mud used in the winter? Well, for warmth and waterproof. Okay, those are just kind of some important details that when they were building their homes. In the center of the Thule house was the fire pit. That makes sense. It was in the center with that hole up above to let the smoke out. In a corner, baskets filled with dried meat and fish were stored. Stacked near the door were baskets that were used for other purposes. On the floor lay blankets of deerskin, bearskin, woven rabbit skin, and mats of tools. Houses were made rather quickly, so when they got dirty or needed repair, they were burned to the ground and another one was built. Interesting strategy there, right? They didn't need them, they built them quickly, and if something just happened, they just burned it down and made another one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll highlight that. Houses were made rather quickly, okay? There's a couple pictures at the bottom. I know that they're kind of blurry in black and white. The one on the left is going to be the picture of what the Thule reeds look like, okay? And then this is kind of just a picture of what more like a village kind of, or like a, with the town center area. And then on the other right is a house, okay? This is not a real picture from Native American times of a house. Instead, what this is a recreation of one, all right? Taking a look at the activity for today, it's a comparison between your home and a Thule house, okay? And in the middle is the things that are similar, and on the outsides are the things that are distinct for your house. So for example, I live in a 2-story house, okay? So I might write that, I might write 2-story, okay? The Thule houses that the Miwoks lived in were 1-story, right? They were 1-story houses, okay? Let's find some similarities that can fit into both of ours though. What is a similarity between these houses that they lived in and a house that I lived in? Okay, I didn't quite put mud on my house. You know what though? My house does have a small hole for a chimney, okay? So it's a little bit different, but I think that there is still, both houses have a way to let smoke out. And I can even kind of put it here. The Thule house was a hole, and I have a chimney. All right, so see if you can come up with a couple other things here. Things that are the same, things that belong just in your house, and things that belong in the Thule house, okay? I'd love to see what you guys can come up with on this. All right, that's it for lesson 2. So just read it, take the notes, and then complete the activity on the back. Thanks, guys.